Hi, I have tried many different MCP servers and I have built my own MCP servers, and this placed me in a position to explain you what exactly is Model Context Protocol is and how you can integrate if you are a SaaS dev or if you want to integrate into your business so that your customer can find your application right into ChatGPT connectors or maybe Claude connectors or maybe any MCP client they are using. So let's begin. What is Model Context Protocol? But before that, we have to understand what is an API. See, API is nothing but application programming interface. So it is a way a code A communicates with code B. So if you are watching this video on YouTube, YouTube has code A, that is the client. If you are watching on youtube.com, it is a website, and if you are watching in YouTube app, it is an application. So it is written in code A. But the videos, they are stored in different places and they are sent over code B. So this is how code A and code B communicates, and this is what API is. Now we will understand what is LLM. You all know LLM. I don't have to explain LLM, but we are just going to see what exactly the relevant information we read right now. So LLM is trained on huge data set and it has more knowledge than any human can comprehend or store in one place. So they can't perform tasks on their own. They need some directions, they need some instruction to perform. But yes, they have a lot of knowledge, and that is a benefit, and that is also a disadvantage for LLM. And that's where we need to give context. So you have learned that you need to learn prompt engineering or something on sort of that. That means this is the way to instruct LLM to give an output to your task input. So this is what you give context. In what is context? Context is nothing but example or any data you want to give to LLM to comprehend the instructions and give a better output, as it were not possible to do without any example or without any data beforehand. But we can't copy paste examples or data always, right? So I have maybe saved one prompt. Okay, I maybe remember one prompt, but every time copying one example, every time copying one data source maybe stored in Postgres database, is it reliable? I don't think so that is reliable. You cannot actually copy paste everything every time. So that defeats the purpose of using LLM. That's why code was implemented, to automate the task we want to do. And we need to understand then what exactly are the data sources we are talking about. The data sources can be database, Google Sheets data, PDFs data, documentation, or docs like Google Docs, Word doc, something like that, where you write text or where you have the information stored. Or it can be image as well. As you know, there are many LLMs which supports image input as well. So it can be image, and if you're using Google AI Studio, you also know that video is also supported. Like, it breaks the video into multiple frames and consider that as an image. So the basic unit which boils down is into text input or maybe image input. So this is the two things we need to understand. These are the data sources. At the same time, we want to perform some task. So what happened is that LLM said that okay, we understand context, we understand example, we understand images, but users wanted more. If you can do so much of that, why can't you perform tasks for us? That will also help. Why only give information? Why only work as a Google search engine or maybe Perplexity search engine? Why can you not, you know, use your own code base? Why can you not perform tasks for us? Tasks simple like that. Maybe automate the Google timer, maybe automate an alarm, or maybe send me reminders when I have to submit this documentation based on natural language processing. So there are few tasks which were automated earlier with simple machine learning codes or maybe simple if else code, but with LLM, a lot of code can be automated. So developer don't need to get and make like LLM understand everything. They just need to give parameters, like what parameters we need to give, and they will just call the function inside the code base. So they can now understand context and they can now perform tasks. So these are the two things LLM can do right now. And why actions? By the task we name, like LLM means function calling. So you have seen that ChatGPT supports function calling, Perplexity supports function calling, Claude supports function calling. I'm not sure about the Perplexity, but yes, the fundamental LLMs like Claude, OpenAI, and Azure, Amazon Bedrock, they all support function calling. So we have to understand that. So now LLM supports text input, image input, and function calling. So these are the two contexts we needed right now. What is API and what is LLM? Now, as a consumer, this is best, but not for developers. So, for example, I am like making API calls to OpenAI. I'm giving it that for this input, give me this output. So I have streamlined that. But with function calling, I have to write every function in my own code base. So that means there is a monopoly of one application only. So that means either if I use OpenAI, I have to build everything. Like if I want to connect your Google Docs application, your Google Drive, I have to write the code on myself. So this becomes tiresome for developers, but this is the best for consumers. Since writing code for LLM provider is a hassle, like I am a developer, I am writing all the code. Why should I write the code? Can I not use any public data source or maybe not public code directly? So that's why we have defined MCP, and let's understand what is MCP. So in MCP, like the model context protocol, there are three elements, that is MCP host, MCP client, and MCP server. First, we will understand what is MCP host and what is MCP client. So you can see MCP host is nothing but your website that can be chatgpt.com or maybe chat.openai.com or maybe claude.ai or maybe Claude desktop or maybe cursor ID or maybe ZID. So it can be a website or app which can host MCP client. So this is, if this is clear, you will understand what is MCP host. Now understand what is MCP client. So it actually defines the way how we communicate with LLM. Right now, chat OpenAI has different documentation. Claude has different documentation, but MCP client actually makes sure that everything is streamlined. So if I just change my data LLM provider, still I don't have to change my code, and that's why we write MCP client's code. So this is how it communicates with LLM hosted on MCP host. Now, but there was still a problem. You have to write code for each MCP host, right? Which we have discussed. You have to. There is an analogy. Earlier, when computers were released, they were like there was no personal computers. At that time, people used to bring hardwares and assemble them into their home or maybe into their office. So assembling was one of them. And when they were assembling, they used to assemble directly with wire or through solder. But that is not beneficial for normal consumer like us. I don't want to get into the intricity of how to solder, how to fix the wire. I need something which I can plug and play. And that's where C type hard disk came into play. Not C type. Earlier there was USB A, then USB C came very later. But right now you understand, if you want to connect any data source like pen drive or your mobile with C type cable or your hard disk, you connect with your laptop or your computer through a cable, and that uses C port, and that's how we streamlined how and hardware communicates with another hardware. So this is what we have streamlined, and similarly, same analogy given to MCP servers as well. So MCP servers are nothing but, consider they are hard disk manufactured by different manufacturing unit, and your laptop is your MCP host, and that C port through which you communicate, and that is your MCP client. So MCP client communicates with MCP server, and it is hosted in your laptop like the MCP host. So as the developer, you don't need to write code inside MCP client. You can just use the MCP servers tool and pass it to LLM, and LLM will choose on its own which tool to use. And that's how we streamline the process, and that's how we move fast with this MCP protocol, model context protocol. So if I say MCP service, it is a fancy way, but in the end, it is a server which communicates by HTTP method only. I'm talking about the remote MCP service, not which is hosted in standard input. So if you are a SaaS developer and if you're building something for your customers, I am assuming that you are building applications in the web and you want to communicate through remote MCP service. And in this way, you will understand that it is nothing but an HTTP method only. Like it communicates via the HTTP method. It is using JSON RPC 2.0 language to communicate. So right now, if you were communicating earlier, you used to send JSON as JSON in the payload. You just need to use JSON RPC 2.0 in the payload. That's it. That's what you need to define. And if I just give a surface level view, it is nothing but LLM gives API request to code, and then code returns a response. So this is the overall analogy you can say. So earlier with API, normal API calls, it was like code A was communicating with code B. Now LLM is communicating with code and code is giving response. So this is the through and fro motion they have to do. So if you go deeper, the code which is there, which is nothing but combination of MCP host and MCP client, and the server, like the code is nothing but our MCP server. So this code can be stored in your local host, that is we call as standard input output, or it can be in remote MCP server, and that is the normal server only. So what does MCP client do? So there is the method we communicate, and that is SAC and streamable HTTP. So SAC is deprecated. Streamable HTTP is the new method to communicate with MCP servers, and we do nothing but post request. So we send post request to our MCP server, and our MCP server respond back to us. Again, there is, if we go into depth, there are three methods like initialize, like post, and then notification. In notification and initialize is a, like notification is a one-way communication, and initialize and post request is two-way communication. So I have made earlier previous videos where I have given hands-on implementation of MCP servers and MCP client. You can watch that, but this was the theoretical knowledge I wanted to give you. So let's not focus on hands-on, let's focus on what MCP server and MCP client is. So this is the final implementation you need to understand. So this is what MCP servers are, and this is what model context protocol is. So if I just make sure that it stays in one place, so it is nothing but model context protocol. So this is what model context protocol is. It includes this type of items in itself, and again it goes a lot into different methods which we can understand through code. So watch my different videos, which I will link into the end screen as well. And let's see you in the next video with different architecture, with different explanations and different code implementation for SaaS developers who are looking to build SaaS business and sell it to their customers. So see you in the next video, guys. Bye.